Recently, my parents surprised me, 26 male, and my siblings, mid-teen and 19, with a ski trip this December, the day after Christmas. My parents offered to pay for my expenses and said my wife, 24, was welcome to come, but she'd need to pay her own way. My wife and I are okay financially, but with the trip being so close to Christmas, we wouldn't be able to afford to pay for her to go. Despite this, I really wanted to go on the trip, as it's always a dream of mine to go on a trip like this. My family grew up dirt poor until I was about 15, when my parents' business took off, and now they're extremely comfortable, can afford to pay for trips like this for us. They could certainly afford to pay for my wife to go, but they've always been this way when it comes to paying for things for me versus my wife. My parents think it's only fair to pay for me when we go eat or when we go on trips, because they still pay for my siblings. I don't ask them to, but it's nice to save money. So on every trip, they'll pay my way room and board, excursions and meals, while my wife is expected to pay her way. This started before we were married. This has always bothered my wife, especially after we got married, and they still excluded her. So in these past 2 years since we married, I've tried to limit the trips since they bother her so much. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip for me, so I thought she'd be supportive of me going. But she's very upset and hurt. She wants to go on the trip, but as I said, we just can't afford it, which she understands. She told me she does want me to have this experience, but she's sad because she thinks my parents purposefully exclude her. Am I the idiot for choosing to go on this trip and leave her behind? I still have time to cancel on my parents, but I know they'd be sad. Well, apparently your parents being sad trumps your wife being hurt by your parents' deliberate hurtful actions to exclude her. You're well aware that your parents are intentionally excluding your wife, and apparently this is definitely not the first time. And you don't understand why she's so hurt and upset about this, especially when it's during Christmas. Think about it, dude. Think really hard. You are the idiot. Seriously, you're a 26-year-old grown man. Worry about upsetting your wife, not your mommy and daddy. Also, the way he says that she'd have to pay her own way. Nah, dude, you're a package deal. If your parents only pay 50% of your costs for going together, then you, as a couple, have to pay the other 50%. It is absolutely not on her alone. I wonder if they'll pay for his divorce. This could be happening sooner than later. They will. These types of in-laws are always willing to pay for divorce attorneys. My ex's parents were. You are the idiot, OP. Are you kidding? Once in a lifetime? It's supposed to happen with the person who you're spending your life with. This has always bothered my wife. Why isn't it bothering you? Family trips include the entire family. Your entire family is you and your wife. Going on this trip is a mistake for you. In my opinion, for your wife, it might be the time she needs to gain perspective on how much she can depend on you, her partner. Right? This would bother me immensely. I can't even imagine my parents doing this to my wife. I would not take a trip without her, especially during the holidays. It would be so sad. It's so cheap and tacky of his parents, and I would be embarrassed and tell them to either extend the invitation to both of us or not at all. Also, it's a ski trip. They must not be that rich if this is once in a lifetime. Why on earth would they pay for you and not your wife? That's absurd. What's their logic? They want to ensure the wife understands that they don't consider her to be part of the family. Also, to show her repeatedly that her husband loves them more than he loves her, and he loves the money and trips more than he loves his wife. Honestly, OP should go on the trip and tell his wife up front, me having a good time and getting what I want will always be more important than supporting you, and my parents' cruel whims will always be more important than your feelings. It would be the kind of hard slap of reality we sometimes need to see that the person we gave ourselves to will never give anything back, and his wife deserves to waste as little of her future with him as possible. This all started 17 years ago when my friend and his girlfriend, now married, gave birth to my daughter, Jasmine. They had a baby they didn't want and gave it to me. I was friends with this guy for a couple of years, and my wife was infertile and was devastated we couldn't have kids. So they gave us the baby. And life was good until the global issue hit. It hit hard for us, and my wife lost her job. Thankfully, I got a better job and made enough to support our needs and barely scraped by for my daughter's tuition. Now, on the other hand, my friend and his wife are living on cruise ships. He makes a lot of money, so much that he basically lives on cruises and owns a nice condo in Honolulu. They wanted to visit my daughter, and during dinner, fancy restaurant paid for by them, offered to pay 20% for my daughter's tuition. My daughter said, why not more than that? And they told her she wasn't their responsibility, as they gave her to my wife and me. Dinner was very awkward after that, and outside I called my friend an idiot for not paying my daughter's tuition. I said he makes very good money and he can afford to pay the tuition. He told me off, left, and returned to his fancy condo. While my daughter was in her room crying, claiming she hated her father, so much so that she blocked all contact with her biological parents and claimed she hated them and never wanted to speak to them again. I don't know how I'll cover the $50,000. It's basically half my salary over 2 years. So, am I the idiot? Edit. They offered to pay 20% of her tuition and to pay off her dorm on campus or an apartment off campus. They also wanted to give her $5,000 to spend on food, which I think they need to send more. They also paid for 75% of the daughter's car. They have been incredibly generous, despite having no financial obligation to you, and you still demanded more? These people gave you the gift of parenthood when you were struggling with infertility and weren't sure if you'd ever have a child. They literally gave you their child and trusted you to be a good parent to her, rather than giving her up for adoption elsewhere. And now you're acting like they're idiots for not bankrolling you as a parent. You are the idiot. You wanted their child, which means she's your responsibility. 20% was very generous. Also, if she's getting a dorm plus stipend, then they're paying for more than half, close to 75% for a state school. What about the money you were supposed to put in as a parent? Good job for being entitled and raising an entitled daughter. Agreed. But the grossest part of all of this is that you don't even see that you're literally negating your own parental connection to your daughter for a money grab. You're saying that she's your daughter, except when you want money from your well-off friend, and then she's his? It's beyond horrifying. In fact, they've raised an entitled child who will now have to spend her life unlearning the horrible lessons she was taught. I was shocked friend offered something at all. The way my eyes bugged at the why not more? Can these people get any more entitled? And now you get 0%. Exactly. The whole panic of how will I pay is ridiculous. You had 17 years to plan for this eventuality. OP, do what every other parent who does not have a wealthy friend does to manage their child's education. You should have been saving money, or take out student loans, or apply for scholarships. That man is not her parent. If he were, you wouldn't be. My 30 female, husband 49, and I've been married for 2 years. We have a baby that's almost a year old. I have 2 kids, Rory, male tween, and Emily, female the same age as Rory, of my own. My husband has 2 sons from a previous marriage, young male teens. My kids had to share a room since they were born, but once I got married, we moved to a bigger house, and they could have their own rooms. My daughter was happy about it, but my son had difficulty adapting to it. He didn't like being alone, and he got scared a lot, crying all night and peeing himself, but he eventually adapted to the new reality and has been more stable. My husband's sister is getting married in Hawaii, and the whole family is going there for a big destination wedding. The idea was for the kids to share rooms in sets of 2. Emily would have to stay with one of my husband's nieces. Rory would share a room with one of his stepbrothers, and the other one with another cousin. But that didn't work. Rory says he doesn't want to share a room with any of his stepbrothers because they smell bad. He told me to let him stay with his sister, but Emily didn't want that. The only other option was to put him with one of the other male cousins, but he warned me that if it turned out that they also smelled bad, he would refuse to stay in the room once we were there, and he'd go sleep in the rainforest. Finally, I begged my husband to pay for another room so Rory could be alone, and I wouldn't have to suffer anymore. But now Emily's mad because she says it's unfair that her brother will have his own room, but she has to share with a cousin she doesn't even know. I think she should understand that her brother has a more challenging time in this kind of situation than her, and not make everything more difficult for me. Emily is a really social and extroverted girl. She didn't complain about this issue before. I feel like she's just being petty, but now she's angry with me, and I don't know what else to do. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Have you ever considered parenting your son? Nope. Too busy making a baby and a new family with your much older and likely wealthier new husband? You've done about as poor of a job of blending this family as possible. Your son gets rewarded for acting up, and your daughter's left behind because she doesn't complain enough. You're not parenting your son, and it's your daughter that suffers the consequences. They smell bad is not a flipping excuse. Let them sleep in the rainforest. Who's in charge here? You or your tween? It sounds like your son calls the shots, not you. Well, of course the boy has a hard time adjusting at his age if he gets whatever he wants because he claims others smell bad, or you let yourself get threatened by him. Your son learned one thing: whine and moan until he gets what he wants, and it works perfectly. Your daughter gets a worse situation because she did what she was told the first time. Stop trying to be your son's best friend and start being a parent. My 36 female, brother 53, Mike, and his wife 52, Chloe, believe that the world should revolve around their son, Logan 31, and that anyone who thinks differently is wrong and doesn't realize how special Logan is. Note, my parents had me when Mike was a teenager, and Mike had Logan at 22, so I'm closer in age to my nephew. Logan, Mike, and Chloe tell people that Logan does freelance for a living, which is code for Logan being unemployed, playing video games, and generally living like a teenager off school. Mike and Chloe handle all of Logan's adult responsibilities. They send him money every month so Logan can pay rent and have fun. Chloe will cook most of Logan's meals and drop them off at his house. She'll do and drop off all his laundry as well. Mike and Chloe tried getting me to fork over money for a Vegas vacation because I had just taken a trip to Fort Lauderdale, and it's not fair that Logan doesn't get to go on vacation as well. I told them heck no, because Logan's a 30-year-old man, and I'm not going to pay for his vacation. Mike and Chloe told me how selfish and awful I was toward my own nephew. Mike and Chloe also expect other family members to cater to Logan this way and react the same way if someone else isn't revolving their life around Logan. So naturally, our relationship is very strained. We keep our interactions very superficial, and we don't see each other unless we're all at a family event. We were at a baby shower for Mike and my cousin a few days ago. Mike and Chloe came up to me just to criticize me for attending Anna's, Logan's ex-fiancée, hooding ceremony. Some background information is that Anna was given a list of marriage demands from Mike and Chloe. They expected Anna to provide 3 meals a day and do all the chores while still working full-time. Logan had told Anna that he supported himself through his freelance work. Anna didn't know until then that Mike and Chloe were sending him money monthly and handling all his responsibilities. Logan always insists on going to her house. Anna noped out of that relationship, and Anna and I are still friends. I told Mike and Chloe that I'm an adult and can be friends with whomever I want. They raised their voices and said I'm disrespecting them by speaking with Anna after she abandoned Logan and can't see how great he is. I told them that for crying out loud, Logan isn't special and he's an overgrown child. They may have deluded themselves, but stop being mad that nobody else is enabling their fantasy. Family members are divided on what I said. Some agree with what I said because they're tired of Mike and Chloe's demands that everyone's life must revolve around Logan, and it had to be said. But others are saying that it was supposed to be a nice family event, and even if I don't mean it, I could have just said sorry instead of causing drama. Am I the idiot? It's not fair that you can go to Vegas and Logan can't. In the name of family, you should support Logan? Cue the tiny violins. You are not the idiot. If they ask you to fork over cash again, just act all innocent and say, I'm not paying for a grown man. He should use the earnings from his freelance work and pay for it himself, and then excuse yourself from the conversation. It needed to be said. You don't need an apology for who you're friends with. I don't blame Anna for noping her butt out of there. I'm surprised she stayed long enough to even get to the fiancé stage. Logan is an overgrown child, and his parents have done him a huge disservice in preparing him for the adult world. Anna dodged a bullet. Even if Logan was diagnosed with developmental delay or whatever, the goal would still be to encourage him to be as independent as possible. This will eventually get old, and they'll get tired of caring for their adult-age little kid. It will be a rude awakening for everyone. I am one of 6 kids, but this story is about my younger brother, 40. I have 4 kids. My brother has 5. We don't get together often because my girls and his oldest don't get along, and because we're a 4 hours plane ride away from each other. My son's birthday is around Thanksgiving. We're always with my family on Thanksgiving, and we always have a big family party for his birthday. My brother is a busy person. He owns a large company, so I was asking him what day he'd be available for the party. Unfortunately, he wasn't available any day, which I thought was weird, considering he always tries to meet with me and the rest of our family around Thanksgiving. Then I got a text from a mutual friend asking what I was wearing to my brother's wedding and if I had any ideas for a gift since she couldn't find a registry. I asked her what she was talking about, and my friend told me he was getting married. I didn't even know he was engaged. He told us last year that he was in a relationship and that they just had a child together, but nothing about getting married. After some digging, I discovered that the wedding would be on my son's birthday, and only 2 of our siblings and their kids were invited. I thought this was incredibly rude of him, so I told the entire family at Thanksgiving that he was getting married, when, and where. Some family members made an appearance at his wedding, and he found out that I was the one who told them about it. He called me the next day screaming at me for ruining his wedding, and then blocked me on everything. I'm starting to feel bad, so I wanted to know if I was the idiot. Edit: my brother didn't want a small wedding. There were at least 300 to 400 people at this wedding. Second, the wedding was on my son's birthday, which was very close to Thanksgiving. You are the idiot. Holy moly. Clearly he has a reason for not inviting you and the other family. Maybe do some self-reflection on that. You maliciously told your family and they crashed his wedding. I hope your apple falls far away from the tree. Yeah, I'm also not buying the excuse. Well, I only told them because it's my kid's birthday. Nah, OP told everyone because OP found out that they weren't invited to a wedding that they didn't know about via text and acted like a child. No wonder he didn't invite them. I would be livid if someone told the toxic members of my family that I was getting married. The fact that they actually went, not being invited, says a ton about how toxic they are. Never disrespect someone's right to go no contact. OP, did you ever stop to think that he had his reasons for not wanting certain people there? Of course not. You chose to disclose this information because of your childish reaction to his not wanting you there. I'm sure he has very valid reasons for not wanting you there. Newsflash, the world does not revolve around you or your son's birthday. Congrats on destroying the relationship with your brother.